Okay, I'd like to call to order the May meeting of the Metro North. First thing I have is approval of minutes. Can I get a motion? Second, all in favor? Carry. Committee work plan. I don't think there's any changes in a work plan. It is always susceptible to change, so if we need to change it, we can. George, status of operations.
Good morning, all. It was a great month. Thank you very much. You can find the report on page 13 of your handbook. April, we operated 98.7% above our target, 97.6%, and all aspects of the service were above target. Of the 30 days in April, we never operated below 95%. There were only 235 late trains in the entire month of the 17,500 trains scheduled. There were 59 trains 15 minutes late, and 23 of those trains were more than 30 minutes late. 99.9% of our trips were completed, and 98.3% of our trains operated with a full consist. On page 16, we have the West of Hudson report. It operated at 98.3, above its target of 95.0. There were 28 late trains of the 1,600 scheduled trains. The Port Jervis was at 98.5. The Pascack Valley was at 98.2. 99.6% of the trips were completed, and there were 9 late trains with 15 minutes, and 7 of those trains were more than 30 minutes late. Mean distance between failure can be found on page 12B. In March, it was 107,000 miles and some small change against a target of 100,000. I will answer any questions.
Any questions for George?
I think one point I want to make is we bounced back from March. March we got particularly the East of Hudson service got affected by that day and a half impact on the peak service with the collapse of the building at 124th Street. But one of the things that I also want to point out is how well the West of Hudson is running. The West of Hudson is running probably better than it's ever done in our history. And there's been a lot of attention paid there, working with Jersey, plus staying on top of the equipment. So things apparently are doing operationally. We're doing well on both sides of the river.
If I'm reading the numbers right, it looks like Connecticut continues to improve, both in full consist and on time. And I assume that's as indicative of the maintenance programs that you've been instituting and things just basically picking up over there.
It's that plus getting people's attention on some of the issues we had to pay attention to, like getting conscious compliance practices. We have enough cars. Once we got the shop online in the fall, we were able to get the cars. Once we got the shop online, the new service inspection shop that CDOT put up for us, get cars through that, we committed to get the constants filled out by the late fall, and we did that, and we've been staying on top of that since then.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I'd like to introduce Kim Porcelain, Metro North's new Vice President of Finance and IS, and Kim's going to give the financial report. I also want to take this opportunity to thank Lenny for the contributions he's made during his tenure at Metro North. As everybody knows, Lenny's going on to be president of the Business Service Center, so he's not being lost to the MTA, but is certainly going to be missed at Metro North. And so, Kim, it's all yours.
Good morning. I also want to begin by saying that I look forward to working with all of you and the excellent management team of Metro North. And I would be remiss to also forget to thank Len DeSimone for so graciously continuing with all the initiatives for Metro North during this transition period, and wish him nothing but success. Today I will be presenting the April financial report. That information was emailed and is in front of you. Also in the book today is prior month's March results. Year-to-date, April total revenues is on a monthly basis $1.2 million positive to budget, and year-to-date $6.2 million positive to budget, mainly due to fare revenue is year-to-date $4.6 million positive to budget. as a result of higher ridership compared to budget, although slightly less than March. Howard's discussion will further describe reasons for ridership. Also contributing to the positive variance in revenues is rents and concessions. Some delays in construction for Vanderbilt Hall provided for additional hosting of events and brought in additional revenues. Total expenses for the month of April were $1.6 million positive to variance. On a year-to-date basis, $4.1 million positive to budget. That's mainly comprised of operations and maintenance being year-to-date $5.0 million positive to budget, mainly due to vacancies encountered, as well as some delays in realizing electric power costs that were budgeted for year-to-date April. And in addition to that, general and admin expenses year-to-date slightly negative to budget by $871,000, and mainly just due to the timing of capital assets put into beneficial use. Now I turn to the cash receipts and disbursements report, and on that, cash receipts is $1 million positive to budget, mainly due to lower capital project activity, offset by higher fair revenue and rent and concession revenue, which we've already discussed. The year-to-date receipts is $9 million positive to budget, and that also is a result of the fair revenue and rent and concessions, as well as positive catching up on CDOT reimbursables. And disbursements is year-to-date $10 million positive to variance, mainly just due to timing of CDOT reimbursements and expenditures. And I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
On the capital item, there are two programs that are behind schedule. One is the new locomotive program. We have three of them on the property, the 125, 126, 127 from Brookville, but none of them have been accepted yet. They're in acceptance testing right now. And the bomb coach rebuild program is behind schedule. It's been behind schedule now for a couple of years. Bombardier is beginning to accelerate the production and getting it up, hopefully up to a predictable rate. We got 5 cars in just this past month, so that program is starting to pick up. But that is resulting in some of the cash issues with regard to capital.
Any other questions? Okay, Howard.
Good morning. I'll speak to the ridership. We talked about March, east of Hudson last month, so I'll speak to April. As Kim mentioned, April was also a good month. It's now 4 good months. We want to watch very carefully as what the impact of the economy is, with particularly in New York City, to see what impact it has. So far in April, we did not see anything of any significance. The numbers in April are a little bit skewed compared to the previous year because of the impact of Easter. Easter fell in March in 2007. It's in April 2008, and what that does, it affects both the number of people switch from monthlies to weeklies, and simultaneously Easter week's a week of very heavy discretionary ridership. So those impacts were felt in March, not in April. So April's numbers compared to last year was up 4.1%, 2% over budget. The budget we did not calendarize the budget for the effect of Easter, so that was not captured there. Year-to-date, ridership's up 4.8% and 2.9% over budget. The story in terms of where the increases are the same that we've talked about for a while. Commutation continues to grow. Year-to-date, it's up year-to-date commutation's up 3.8%. In fact, April's up 4.5%, and that's, again, that calendarization impact. Intermediate travel year-to-date's up 5%. The increases are in the areas we've talked about. Continuing in the Bronx, we are seeing increases of between 7.5% and 8% on the Harlem and Hudson lines. The Upper Hudson's growing at about 6.6%, and all the segments are growing. It's just a question of what rate and how quickly. So we continue to see significant growth. I guess it will be led by the Bronx and the Upper Hudson, so the very inner and then also the outer. On west of Hudson, Mark, that this is in the book. I mean, again, you see very good results here, tied to what Pete was speaking of the service. And we're also seeing a continuing very positive impact of the service improvements that were made on the Pascack Valley line last year. You can see year-to-date, Pascack Valley ridership is up 24%. It's over our budget. We're doing better than we thought we would from these trains, and the total west of Hudson is up 10%. In connecting services for the month of March, which also is in the book, there are a couple of, again, most of these are up significantly. We see a couple of places that different, but let me highlight for you where we see the big increases. Again, Newburgh Beacon Ferry, up 35% year-to-date. We have a little pool inside of the Operations Planning Department as to when that's going to go ahead of Haverstraw-Ossining, what the over-under date is. In the month of March, it went up 54%. Now, that in part is due to we had icing in March of 07, so a little bit of that is that, but if you take that out, it's around 45% in the month of March. So we're seeing accelerating growth on both ferries, but particularly Newburgh Beacon. Also major growth on the Shoreline East, feeding into the New Haven line, feeding into Stamford on Tappan Zee Express. Year-to-date, really the only thing that's gone down is Putnam County service, which is a very, very small service with one route. And that's it on the connecting services, so I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Not particularly on the report, Howard, but there was a piece which you may have seen on one of the networks, I think, on the switch from automobile commutation to mass transit, and it was very positive, reflecting the gas situation. And the point that they made was that both now and in past spikes like this, that the mass transit providers have been able to hold on to their converts, so to speak. And I'm just I was encouraged by that. I'm sure that we're taking steps to kind of nail that one as well. And just wondering if you have any way of measuring that.
Let me just say generally, Jim, I think we have been, as our ridership has grown for a variety of reasons, we've retained the ridership. That's why it's gone up so much over the past years. It's a retention and a constant building. The one thing I will give you, the best example that we have been able to measure, and as I just reported on, was what's happened since New York City Transit strike of about, I guess it was December of 05 or 6. 05, where we had that huge volume of people who took Metro North on those days, and we've retained that ridership. And to this day, we're reporting basically double-digit increases in the Bronx to New York. So clearly, and just anecdotally, people speak of, and we've heard it many times, is people didn't know about Metro North. Once they found out about it, that became their way of choice. So we know that's happened there. We do surveys to monitor regularly, ridership retention and things like that. It's given in the volume we have, it's hard to separate out, small segments who are switching and say they, scientifically say, yeah, we kept the fuel drivers. But generally speaking, we know we are retaining the riders as we attract them. And there's a fair amount of, the other thing I tell you is there's a fair amount of turnovers. Surprising is people move in, other people retire. We have a lot of people whose, the average use of the railroad is turned over fairly regularly.
Yeah, you wonder whether, and I'm sure that this is probably being done, but you go out with some sort of a little campaign, say, hey, give us a try, that kind of thing too.
Yeah, that's part of the marketing. We do all, absolutely.
Are you predicting that the fuel prices are a spike?
No, sir.
Oh, okay. I'm just trying to see if I can get some investment advice.
You're very perceptive at least, I'll say that.
I'd like to comment on something. Although it's undoubtedly true that we're seeing an increase in all of our transit riders throughout all of the properties, I think the figures for west of Hudson speak to a different issue. And that issue is that when you have an underserved community and you provide service, you get huge increases. And it's interesting to me west of Hudson in that you see it in two different directions. Obviously, the Pascack Valley line is just booming with its new trains, but you're also seeing much more commutation across the Hudson so that they pick up the Hudson line. I really expect that if we could expand the service on the Port Jervis line, you'd see the same kinds of increases. And then on a more negative note, although the Pascack Valley line is doing fine because you put extra trains on it, keep your eye on the number of standees on the Port Jervis line because every day there are more. And I can attest to that. But they're still programmed, I think.
Well, we do that, Susan. We've just modified the equipment program within the last few weeks to add cars to some of the trains on the Port Jervis line because of exactly that phenomenon.
One of the things we did after the customer survey last year, remember we were concerned about the decline in satisfaction west of Hudson, and we said we were going to do focus groups. We did the focus groups. And one of the things came up was the crowding issue. I'm not sure it was a standee issue, but it was a crowding issue. And considering the distance that they ride and the amount of time that they ride, they felt that it was a crowded train. So, as Howard has pointed out, we went through and looked at all of the consists and are re-equipping it because we do have a sufficient fleet size over there. I think one of the interesting things that should be pointed out, though, when we talk about significant increases and relate to the show that Jim just mentioned, our percentages are not high. When you're talking 4 or 5% in the scheme of things. But when you consider what our market share has been, that's a large number. The other thing is 5% for Metro North a year is 4 million rides, whereas 30% like Tri-Rail was in that group. It's only in the thousands. It's in the tens of thousands, but there's a significant difference when you look at, and that's because of how much of the market we have. The other thing I think that that needs to be, I think what we're seeing on the west of Hudson, is there's a real demand for the service. As long as the service is convenient, easy to use, and provides plenty of frequency and is fast. And I think that's what you see east of Hudson. That's why we've got such a large market share. As long as it's dependable service, there's a large, high frequency, so they don't have to wait long in between trains, they will come. And we're fortunate in this region in that we have that service for them. When can you imagine what it would be like if we were in LA right now with $4 or $5 gas prices, and you don't have the network that we have to be able to sustain it or give people an option.
Howard, you said you were going to be adding other cars, to the consists over there for the Pascack line?
Port Jervis.
Do you know when that's going to start?
I believe a couple of them have put in. Is Bob McClager here? He would know.
No, Bob.
No, it's not here. We'll get you the date.
A month or?
Oh, no, I think
no.
it's either happened or it's a matter of a week or so.
Yeah,
it's right now.
Okay.
It's just a matter of just getting the equipment back inside and getting it into the cycle to be able to handle it. So it's just a matter of weeks when we make the decision to do that.
Thank you.
Would you also find out which trains have increased their consist? Because there are some that I think are more needy than the others certain times. And the express routes are definitely important.
Absolutely.
Address the short line issue.
Oh, okay. Let me, one other point of information. We were notified last night that there was a vote of the short line bus drivers, and that it appears as if they will be having a strike effective tonight. Now, that does not affect any of the Metro North feeder services or anything else directly, but there will be, obviously, people looking to take the trains into New York City because the buses will not be available. So we are working right now with NYSDOT to look to beef up, and to New Jersey Transit, where we can beef up services. We're looking at lengthening the trains for Tuesday, effective either tomorrow or Tuesday. We'll see what we can do to move the cars around, both we're looking at the Hudson line as well as the Pascack and Port Jervis lines. We're looking at adding some ferry runs where we can do so, and we're looking at expanding the Newburgh Beacon bus. And I believe Tappan, the Transport of Rockland, is doing the same, looking to feed Tarrytown. So we're working with all the players, and assuming this comes to pass, we'll have some expanded service in place.
That's good news and bad news. It's good news that you're ready for it,
Right.
but it's going to be difficult to accommodate all those bus riders.
Right.
But maybe if they start with us, they'll stay with us.
Right. Follow that experience, our previous experience.
I also think that we have to look at the successes that we're having in our ridership, which are in contrast to the financial impacts that are being suffered on the family level. And we have to watch that because we're being very successful where the economy is sort of dampening the other end of it. It's something we're going to have to watch as a committee and as a company. Capital
Well, I think
programs.
the other thing that we can't lose sight of also, because there's some feeling internally within the family that the ridership growth that we're seeing and may not be sustainable, not for reasons of the gas price driving the ridership up, but the economy. Bear Stearns, for example, is a major customer of Metro North because of where they're located, and yet they got major layoffs going on. So we know we're going to lose some ridership. So we have to be careful on the ridership that we are, because what we're seeing as growth today may result in that trend may not necessarily continue depending on what happens to the economy. So, and we've talked about that internally, and we are watching it both from from what we're projecting as far as revenue is concerned, and also making sure that we're controlling our costs.
Capital. Ron.
Thank you. Good morning. The capital program highlights are on page 35, and I have a few updates. The station projects, the Hudson Line Phase 2B project, which includes Phillips Manor, Scarborough, and Ossining, is well underway. Track 4 was permanently taken out of service at the end of January. We're well on our way with the demolition of most of the each half of the inbound platform. And this past weekend, we took the overpass at Scarborough out and demolished it in the parking lot. Yankee Stadium Station is also going strongly underway. Track 6 and then Track 4 were cut over the end of last year and in the spring of this year. And this past weekend, we cut over new Track 2. So we're now in a position, we're demolishing old Track 2 now and be in a position to begin that 1-2 island platform to go along with the 4-6 platform that's in place now at Yankee Stadium.
You also got the final configuration for the track now, right?
Yes, yes,
So
with
the
the
track
exception
work
of
is
some,
basically done.
a little bit of elevation for Track 1. 98% of the track work is done for the Yankee Stadium job. I'll feel most comfortable when not only the track relocated, but also we're out of the ground, if you will, in terms of piers, pits, and pilings. But we're moving along with that job. We awarded a contract, or expect to award a contract this month for the Walkill River Bridge on the West Hudson. At Croton Harmon, we're about 50% complete with the precast wall panels on the locomotive building, 90% complete with the steel, structural steel on the coach shop. And on the Highbridge Yard car wash facility, that building is virtually complete, and within the next 10 or 14 days or so, we should begin testing in that facility. And that's my report. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I'd like to add one thing. Yesterday up in New Haven, there was a little bit of a press event, but more importantly, we opened up the mock-up for the M8. The mock-up is in the country. We opened it up yesterday afternoon at New Haven for customers to see and to provide input. We also had the new Brookville Locomotive 126 up there to show them. That mock-up will come down to Stanford and will be opened up to the public. There's a survey program to collect data from the customers, and it'll be in GCT sometime around the 1st of June or a little thereafter. It's a mock-up of the interior.
Ron, just one quick follow-up on the Harmon rehab. We're on schedule there?
Yes. Yeah, Phase 2B? Yes.
Any questions? Safety.
Good morning. I'll summarize the safety results that are in the books beginning on page 40. These are results through March. And on the employee side, so far, through the end of March, we had 31 employee injuries this year compared to 63 in the same period last year. The lost time and restricted duty injuries adjusted for work hours were down from 2.2 to 0.8, a 64% decrease. And the FRA reportable employee injuries, again, adjusted for work hours, were down from 3.4 per 200,000 hours worked to 1.3, a 62% decrease. And I can report that updating those results, as of yesterday, those strong improvement trends are continuing, with the total injuries still running down over 40% and lost time still running down approximately 55% as of yesterday. On the customer side, there were 11 more injuries during that period this year compared to last year, 64 versus 75. Adjusted for ridership, that results in 3.9 injuries per million rides this year compared to 3.5 injuries per million rides last year, an 11% increase. And the FRA reportable injuries per million rides at this point was down from 1.2 to 0.2, an 83% decrease. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Sure.
Just a comment. I saw something in the On Track this month that caught my attention. First, I'd like to thank President Canito because I thought this was a really wonderful message to everyone about the railroad and its future. But the thing he said in here that caught my attention was that the safety program has been so successful that it looked like zero injuries was possible, where in the past it's never even been anything we could conceive of. I still think it's a stretch, but it's a testimony to how good this is.
We all think it's a stretch.
Yeah. It's worth reading this article.
Thank you. I think we all agree it's a stretch. I think it's the mindset that we adopt, and I think that's what drives our
But imagine if we just got
program.
down to 0.1.
That's right.
I mean, or 1.0 as a measure. So,
Yeah.
we're not going to get there if we believe that 4 is acceptable, and that's the problem.
That's right.
MTA, please.
Good morning. The crime report for Metro North side of the house is found on page 44. The numbers are similar to those of last year. The only thing I'd just like to report during the month of April, communication between Metro North operations, MTA operations, and the police department leading up to the papal visit with some meetings at the Archdiocese, all helped in the busing detail that we had at Yonkers Station for the youth rally on that particular Saturday. And although the numbers were not as high as we anticipated, it's a number we didn't know, everything worked well, both at Yonkers and 125th Street for that weekend. And that's the only thing I have to report if you have any questions.
Good. Any questions or comments? Thank you. Yeah, we have no public speakers. We have no information items. We have no action items. We're up to procurements.
And we don't have all that many procurements. We've got 7 procurements totaling $2.8 million. The non-competitive procurements are primarily OEMs, either for service or for parts. And there's, I don't think there's anything really here that's of significance. We do have the Poughkeepsie Station improvements, construction supervision and inspection. We have received bids on the work at Poughkeepsie, and they are within budget, and we are, it's the roof and the terracotta, so we're proceeding with that. This construction supervision is for the roof and the terracotta, and I also think it covers the next phase too, doesn't it? The windows, next 2 phases. Right. The rest of them are primarily just service agreements. Like I said, I don't see, there's one ratification, and that was for emergency repairs to a sewer line at Ossining Station for $80,000. And with that,
Any discussion? Ron, I'm glad to see if you take that first step. It's been a while coming. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Carried.
Okay, we do have one executive session.
We have an executive session. Can I get a motion to move into executive session? Second. Carried. Regarding a security matter.